Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about Bitcoin. We have an important piece of economic data coming out on Friday, and the market will be closely watching this. It's basically the only piece of data since the government shutdown regarding inflation, and it is definitely going to affect the market for better or for worse. We'll also take a look at Hive. A lot of people have been asking about Hive. I don't really cover it, but I'll give it a look at some recent news, and give the chart a look as well. Now, first off, Bitcoin on the daily, you'll see that it was rejected on the 50 MA. On Tuesday, it was rejected right at that 50 MA, was not able to clear it, and now we're basically holding around the 200 MA on the daily here. Now, I want to show you something on the weekly that I didn't mention previously. We talked about the weekly and how we always get a bounce here, but what we always get also, or what we have gotten the last previous times, was a retest. You see we recovered here, bounced, and then it came down, retested, dropped under it, but we didn't get a candle to close under. We recovered and it went to new all-time highs after the test of the 50 MA. We got our test basically. Maybe we're coming down to retest it right around this $102 level. Maybe Bitcoin tests $100 psychological level, regains the 50 MA at about 102,000 on the weekly, and then starts rallying, tries to break the 50 on the daily right there. But we also noticed this in the previous pullback back in August 2024. A lot of Mt. Gox drama, a lot of fear, brought us down to about $50,000. We bounced and came down and retested the 50 MA and got a second bounce. Maybe Bitcoin needs that second bounce, that retest on the 50 MA. The 50 MA on the weekly and the 50 MA on the daily are both going to be important levels. If we break the 50 MA on the daily, that would be fantastic because we're currently under it. If we break the 50 on the weekly, that wouldn't be good. But if we do, hopefully it's short-lived, kind of similarly to here, and we see history kind of repeat again. Keep in mind that currently Bitcoin is about 3% down in October, which is quite surprising. Typically October on a peak year is green and very green. So we do have a couple of days left. Maybe Bitcoin can close in the green on October. All it needs is a 3% move back roughly to the 50 MA essentially. If we can come back up, hit this 50 MA and break out before October is over, October will end in the green. Maybe it's going to really rely on this piece of economic data coming tomorrow. And this is, of course, the CPI. The market is expecting that it rose 3.1% year over year in September, which is a new high, a 17-month high. If this comes in at expectations and over expectations, it does show that inflation has been rising back up. I'm really hoping that this 3.1% is not what we see, and we see something a little bit lower, because this will put more pressure on the Fed, who is still expected, regardless of this information that Wall Street has, is still expected to cut, but this will definitely make future cuts very murky, unless, of course, the labor market continues to weaken even more. Still, the expected uptick would not likely be steep enough to deter officials at the Fed from cutting rates in October as expected. The Fed has grown more concerned with preventing unemployment than fighting inflation. And this, as I said, is one of few official pieces of economic data since the shutdown that began on the 1st. And you know, despite this higher CPI possibly, the Fed is at a 99% chance almost of getting a cut in their meeting. This is on October 29. Still, regardless, you know, it'll be important to watch CPI. Does it come in higher than expectations? Does it hopefully come in lower? That would be good news. If not, it's going to be at like a 17-month high, which isn't going in the right direction. Now, I do want to talk about Hive. A few people have been asking about it. It's not one that I'm in. It's not one that I'm into. But let's look over the recent news and the chart. Hive plans a 100 megawatt hydro-powered expansion and a 5-fold increase into its AI and HPC operations. Now, this was news on October 21. Just a few days ago. But once this expansion is complete, they anticipate a global Bitcoin mining capacity of 35 exahash per second in 2026, up from roughly 22 exahash today. That is a pretty massive hash rate increase. Good for them. And as said by Hive's executive chairman Frank Holmes, we've scaled Bitcoin mining from 6 exahash per second at the start of the year to nearly 22 exahash per second today, on track to reach 25 exahash by year end. Quite impressive, quite impressive. They're also actively expanding their high performance computing HPC and AI infrastructure through a partnership with Bell Canada, and this collaboration integrates Hive's Buzz HPC division with Bell's National Fiber Network, forming one of Canada's leading sovereign AI ecosystems. Now, one thing with Hive you want to watch is this recent uptrend. We have bounced off of this 3 times. This is the current trend unless it's broken. If it is broken, we're probably going to test the 50 MA right here at about $4. Previous area of resistance here as well, so that would be a very likely area to test right around here. If we do break this uptrend, keep an eye on the trend. It is still our friend. And one thing to know with Hive is they saw massive buy volume massive buy volume, and it has definitely had a good run just from, the beginning of September when it was about half its price. What is very disappointing, however, is Hive's performance from the beginning of the cycle, from our crypto winter lows back in late 2022 when Hive was 139. From this point to its current price, it has only done about a 254% move. One of the worst performing Bitcoin miners in my recent memory. It also actually went even lower in April of 2025. This is when many of the Bitcoin miners and Bitcoin started its massive uptrend. Luckily, Hive enjoyed this uptrend as well. It bottomed out right here at the beginning of April at about $1.20 something. The best it's done this cycle at its absolute best is almost a 5x, roughly a 5x. It definitely hasn't been a performer this cycle. But keep an eye on the trend. The trend is still intact. If we can get a bounce and a rally, especially if Bitcoin can take back its 50 MA on the daily, and if it successfully holds its 50 MA on the weekly, I see no reason why Hive can't continue higher and enjoy a future Bitcoin fueled rally. But ever since its golden cross back here in early to mid-September, it has been on a fantastic uptrend. And I personally don't think this uptrend is over, but I would be cautious here and keep an eye on this trend. If this breaks, we are heading lower, likely to this roughly $4 level to test the 50 MA, which it has flown away from quite a bit. No, there wasn't any bearish divergences on the daily. There was a bearish divergence on the 4-hour. We saw a lower high here, and Hive's price wasn't done going higher. This was a bearish divergence, lower high, higher high, and that did mark a top for Hive right here on October 10. Earnings is slowly approaching for all these Bitcoin miners. We're approaching earning seasons for them all, and Hive actually is expecting to double their revenue nearly from last quarter. That's very impressive, but they are anticipating a loss on the quarter. They reported a surprise profit in the previous quarter, which is one reason it rallied so much probably. That's very nice to see that they actually posted a profit where it was expecting to be a loss. However, in the quarter before that, they posted a loss. There have been a few quarters where they posted a profit, but not really as profitable as many of the other Bitcoin miners like CleanSpark Iron that were a little more consistently profitable. I think there's a good chance that we see a surprise beat here. Keep in mind, this is the period ending in September, so this doesn't account for Bitcoin's recent drop here in early to mid October. I think there's a good chance that it surprises the market and we do see a profitable quarter. That's going to be another exciting thing for these Bitcoin miners is earnings. It feels like quite a while since they have reported their last earnings, and it's going to be interesting to see what they report, as Bitcoin has averaged right around anywhere from $105 to like $125,000 throughout the quarter. One of the best quarters for Bitcoin's price in history. But let me know how you guys are feeling about the upcoming CPI data. How are you feeling about Bitcoin lately? Do you also think that the cycle plays out and we see new all-time highs this year? Or are we set for some disappointment to end the year? And also, what do you think about Hive? Despite its performance so far this cycle, do you think it has a lot of potential in the future? Or do you think it's going to kind of remain a dud throughout this cycle with underperformance compared to the others? Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.